We're here today at the American Center in Delhi with Mr. Gaurav Mishra, who is the head of an organization called 2020 Social. He's a bit of a social media expert, and he just taught a workshop on social media for nonprofits that was organized by the NASCOM Foundation. Hi, Gaurav.
Hi, Sabera.
Thank you for agreeing to talk to us. The first question that I had for you is, a lot of nonprofits in India tend to be very strapped for resources. They're not quite as technologically savvy as their for-profit counterparts. So how relevant do you think social media is for today's nonprofit in India?
I think social media tools like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, especially, and Ning, especially, are very interesting for nonprofits because they don't have a licensing cost in most instances. They and therefore it's easy for nonprofits to set them up and use them as long as they figured out what exactly they want to use it for, and as long as they have volunteers who are willing to help them build communities using these social platforms. These tools can become fairly low cost ways to engage um, with their evangelists and build a community around their cause.
What about the constraints of broadband or really slow internet access, not having the right type of mobile phone, maybe not having the volunteer base? The average nonprofit in India struggles with all of these issues. So, just wondering how social media fits into the picture.
Okay, so in India, internet access itself is limited to around 5% of the population. And although there are 600 million mobile users, less than 100 million of those use SMS, yeah, because of literacy issues and problems in dealing with the SMS UI itself. So by default, if you're looking to reach uh, rural audiences, for instance, or people who don't have access to mobile phones, then you can't really reach them using social media. What you can do is you can build access to volunteers and to donations using social media, and then use these volunteers and the donations to do your volunteer work with audiences who don't have access. For social media to work, there are certain prerequisites. One prerequisite is that you need to know who your evangelists are. You need to know why would somebody talk about you, your cause, or your organization. Yeah, and who are these people, and who will they talk to about your cause or your organizations? That's the first prerequisite. The second prerequisite is that you need to be constantly giving them something to talk about. Whether these are programs or pieces of content, you need to give them something to talk about. And the third piece is that you need to use social media tools to organize and energize them. Yeah, whether by again giving them content on a regular basis which they can share forward, or by helping them connect with other volunteers who share the same passion as them. And finally, you need to be able to use these social media tools to help your evangelists, to help your volunteers spread the word about your cause or your organization, and get and convert more people into evangelists. That's what social media is good at.
Now, in terms of when a nonprofit should enter the social media space, say I'm a young fledgling nonprofit just starting out, there's no real brand awareness about me, I don't really have anybody who knows about me. Should I be on social media right away? Should I wait 6 months? When is the right time for me to start ramping up my social media presence?
Anytime is the right time to start your social media presence, as long as the prerequisites I mentioned are met. You have a cause which you are passionate about, and you can get other people to get passionate about. You know who are the people you're trying to get passionate about your cause, which means you know who your evangelists are, and you have the time and the energy to actively reach out to these evangelists, to participate in communities and conversations who are already engaged with your cause, and then to connect your own organization into that ecosystem of people who are already passionate about your cause. As long as you have the time and energy and the motivation to do that, it doesn't matter if you are Red Cross or a small one-person nonprofit.
Now, the social media space is extremely crowded, and it's getting more crowded because, as you said, most of these tools are free.
Mhm.
How do you go about distinguishing yourself from other organizations who are working in the same space, as passionate as you are about what they're doing, possibly even working for the same causes? How do you stand out?
So, here's the interesting thing about social media. It works only if you work outside in and not inside out, which means that you have to start with the cause and say everybody who's working on this cause is a potential collaborator, is a potential evangelist, and not a competitor. Unless you start with that mindset, you'll find that you'll struggle very hard to differentiate yourself. Yeah. So start from the cause itself. Don't start with the organization. Start with the cause. Look at everybody else who's involved there as a potential evangelist. If they have already existing communities where people are talking about your cause, engage in those communities, and then add value to those communities, add values to those conversations, and then people will start paying attention to you. That's the only way people will start paying attention to you.
Okay. Now, there's a multitude of social media tools. There's Twitter, Facebook, Ning, YouTube, you name it. There's a lot of stuff out there. Um, isn't there a danger of some of these non-profits, particularly in India, spreading themselves too thin, trying to do a little bit of everything on every single one of these sites? How do you think a non-profit should deal with this? Should they pick one particular platform? Should they try to have a presence across the board? What's the best strategy?
Yeah. So our preferred strategy is to have a piece at the center, and this piece is typically a website or a blog or a online community, and you can make this using free tools like WordPress and Ning, or you can make it you can pay an agency some serious money to create a website using Drupal, for instance. Yeah. And this should be the center of everything you do online, and then the content you create here, you can repurpose it and share it in specific ways on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and so on. So that and the content on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and so on should also be cross connected with each other. Yeah. So the central piece is really important. Unless you have a blog, a community, a central website which everything else connects to, you will find that you're spreading yourself too thin, and you're not achieving much by doing that.
And finally, taking a look at this workshop today, what were the key challenges that you think most of these nonprofits face, and what were the key takeaways from this particular session?
So the key challenge is that nonprofits are stretched for time and money, and several of them are so focused on their own programs and trying so hard to make their own programs work that sometimes they lose focus on take their eyes off what they're really trying to achieve. They need to remember what their cause is to begin with, and as long as they're able to do that, then all these tools become very effective or can be used effectively. If they forget that, then no amount of sophistication in using the tool will help them do what they're trying to do.
So that was to the challenge. What do you think would be the one biggest takeaway from this workshop today?
So the biggest takeaway is to start outside in. Always start by thinking about who are the people whose lives you're trying to change, what is the big cause you've committed yourself to, and then start from there, and then come down to the specific programs your organization runs, and the objectives your organization has in terms of how big it needs to become and how many people it needs to engage. Never take your eyes off the big picture.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.